and welcome to this Feedinfo Perspectives video on focuses for the animal nutrition industry. I am Ollie Theocaras, Head of Perspectives Content for Feedinfo. Today, I am speaking to an industry leader to get his opinion on what our industry should be prioritising. So we have Stefaan Van Dyck, who is the President of Animal Nutrition and Health for Europe, Middle East and North Africa at Kemin, who are supporting this video. So we are going to be talking about some of the key focuses for our industry, how businesses in the animal nutrition and health space have coped with the disruptions that 2020 has brought, and also what Kemin are focusing on, as well as what we as an industry should be prioritising to future-proof what we're doing. So hello, Stefaan, thank you for joining me today. To start, it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about your career background and also your current role within Kemin.
It's already quite a career in Kemin, getting to 20 years next year, so quite a milestone. But started in R&D as an R&D manager, and climbed the ranks and learned to know our industry. My background was in organic chemistry, so I had to learn a lot about animal nutrition and how to raise animals. Then through various functions in R&D, also got into a more global coordinating role for the group globally in research and development, and then got more interested in the business side. And after doing an MBA, moved through a marketing role into a more general management role. But that was out in the Kemin group, but outside of animal nutrition and health, it was in our food ingredients business. So learned there a lot of more different skills linked to the business side for 5 years, heading that group for Europe, Middle East and Africa. And then in 2018 moved back to my alma mater, so the animal nutrition and health business, as president for the Europe, Middle East and North African region.
I think I hear this quite a lot, that people always come back to the animal nutrition industry. Something calls you back and you always want to come and see what's going on. I think it's a great place for us all to be. So
absolutely, many challenges and many opportunities. So absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. So I mean, you are a veteran of the industry. How do you feel that animal nutrition businesses like Kemin have actually coped with the disruptions that we faced in 2020? And what have you as a leader learned from this experience?
Yeah, I think in overall, I think the industry managed quite well. It became clear that as an essential industry, that our operations would not be harmed too much. Of course, globally, there were supply chain challenges. I think that many colleagues of the competition struggled with. Overall, Kemin, we did not have too many problems with that. I think our, let's say, global structure helped there, of course, with also having contingency plans, of course, for our raw materials. So let's say on the supply side, that was covered very quickly with the help of being a global group. And that we could communicate quite fast in the market. And I think I saw also many other companies doing that, which there was some panic buying, but if I look at our business, it was quite limited. So there was a little bit of an increase in the first months of, let's say, first weeks even of lockdown, but that stabilized quite fast. I think all players in the market played an important role to calm the market down quite fast. Having raw materials is not everything. Then it's also you need to be able to produce it, and there I would like to refer to, let's say, the very diligent behavior of our employees. We took a lot of precautionary measures quite fast, and these were followed up very diligently by our team in Europe, which helped us a lot. We have since let's say March, we have had record low absenteeism. So people were very motivated and very supportive in following let's say all the precautionary measures. And in that way, also, we kept our operations free from COVID, which is, of course, also very important, having the raw materials and having the manpower and the people to produce the products. So big thank you to our team who followed that very, very well. And up to date, although many people have been confronted with COVID in their household or their families, we had not a single transmission in our company. So I think we can be very proud of that, and that's of course essential to serve our customers.
That's great news. I know it's been a real challenge for some businesses when there have been outbreaks, so it's good to know that you've managed to maintain that. And I think there's a few things that were interesting to me there. Firstly, I think a big challenge like a global pandemic really can bring everyone together and inspire people. And I think from the sound of things, that's what's happened within Kemin, where you haven't had any absenteeism and people are working really hard to overcome these challenges. I think that's great to hear.
Yeah, and a very big team support, let's say team spirit and camaraderie to indeed make sure. I think also it was an important point in time now that we understand we are an essential business. We are an essential part in the chain of making people are fed every day. And also in the pandemic that became much more clear which things are very important to continue our normal life. Even when we're locked down, still we need food, still we need healthcare, etc. So I think also that understanding and that appreciation, I think, of society was also important for our industry.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because as we always say, we are in the business of food. So it's good that we can we were able to prove that during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Very good point. So let's talk about your organization. What are the key focuses for Kemin Animal Nutrition and Health over the next year? Have you got anything planned for 2021?
Absolutely. I think Kemin has always been a very service-oriented business. Our products require a lot of technical support for the correct implementation, so that our customers also get the full return on investment on those products. And that, of course, means, and also a bit driven by COVID, of course, we are used to having a lot of personal interaction to bring that service to customers. And that, of course, changed a little bit during COVID. We had also a lot of initiatives already in the pipeline, and these are being accelerated. So in looking in a different way at our services to bring them to the customer also in a more digital way, so that you do not need to have the Kemin person next to you in order to be helped. And that's on various elements. We have our customer lab services. That data that we do analysis for customers, and then we bring that to them, that they also have that information at their fingertips more than in a report which is then discussed. So we are building that database so that they have access to their data, can also benchmark and see what's happening in the industry. Can be on different elements, can be around food safety issues, and then see, okay, if we have an issue, is it quite prevalent or not? Do we see it specifically in our region? Is it also happening in other regions? So not only give their data and access to their data at their fingertips, but also that they can do something with the data and get more information and insights out of that. So that's an important piece. The sustainability element, of course, is also quite a big topic in our industry. So we will give that a lot of attention also next year. And of course, innovation is at the core of Kemin, always has been. So we have, of course, some quite new initiatives there. And then mainly linked for our customers, they will see innovations in our product application, but they will also see product innovations. We are in the final stages of having the first organic chromium registered in Europe, so that is coming close to launch. Also our ruminant portfolio, which is very important, rumen protected products. There we're also expanding outside of that traditional area that we've worked on, also moving a bit more into health. So those products are coming. And then in our let's say our more mature core products like the mycotoxin binders, we also have some innovations coming up which will be launched next year.
Fantastic. A busy 2021, I think, for you.
Absolutely, yes.
That's good to hear. So I want to focus in on a few of those topics, because I think they are issues that the entire industry is really trying to focus on at the moment and address to find solutions for. So let's focus first on sustainability. What do you think are the key trends in this area, and what requests are you getting from your customers regarding sustainability and how that should be used in their products?
Yeah, you see the focus on sustainability and also communication going quite crescendo, I think. That's what we observe from our customers. It's something we can observe indirectly when you see, looking at the reports and strategic communication of our, let's say, our customers and feed producers. You will see that sustainability is always mentioned quite at the top of the list of strategic areas that our customers are working on. Of course, we need to make that very concrete. So what does that actually mean? We know where we want to go. We want to increase sustainability of our industry, give it a space in production of protein. But on the other hand, what does that practically mean? I think the first requests we got were directly linked to sustainability and environment and regulatory pressure. That is immediately very tangible, and customers immediately have requests, okay, this is something that might come into legislation. It will have this impact on then and the customers of our customers, the farmers mainly. So, okay, how can we help to mitigate the impact of that new legislation through products and then also through feed additives that Kemin could supply? So those were the first requests. We see that now going much broader. Let's say, okay, looking at the entire, let's say, integrated chain. So what is the role of the farmer? What is the role of the feed producer? What is the role of raw material producers, feed additive producers, etc.? And we see requests that are more linked, let's say, where we know that the answers will not come from necessarily Kemin alone, but from also, let's say, all players in the chain. And that's what we have observed mainly this year, is that a lot of companies are, let's say, getting closer to each other to address these issues, because a lot of the questions cannot be answered by one company alone efficiently. So it will require more collaboration, I think, throughout the industry. And that's something I've seen more, let's say, in the last year, and which will be certainly visible, I think, next year.
I agree. I am hearing more and more about these collaborations, and I think it's really heartening that it's around the issue of sustainability, because it's such an important issue that's going to affect everyone in the world, not just in our value chains. So I agree. I think that's great to see, and I hope that that continues. So speaking about collaborations, I want to hear about what's going on at Kemin in this area. Can you tell us in the area of sustainability what you've got planned and the sort of projects that you're working on?
Yeah. We say in Dutch, if you want to clean the streets, sweep before your own front door first. So of course you need to look internally also what you're doing and what products you're using, raw materials. But it starts, of course, with, let's say, the more generic elements of what is our own energy use, what is our own water consumption, etc. But let's say that's quite internal, and that's not something that has a lot of value for our customers. But I think it's a hygiene factor. It's something we absolutely need to do in order to be able to do business. So that is something we're doing very clearly. The second step is, of course, understanding our products very well and what their impact is. It's not only about innovation. I agree there will be innovations, there will be challenges specifically linked to sustainability, specific questions that are being asked for which a solution is not existing yet, and that will lead to innovation. But I think first thing to do is, of course, look at what we are already doing and what the impact is, and to have that, let's say, pinned down very concretely. And there's a lot of work to do in the industry there. That's something we are working on, and certainly from a feed additive point of view, it is of course very interesting. We have a lot of products that do have an impact on efficiency. In that way, also immediately have an impact, of course, on sustainability. So how can you really put a value on that? So that requires a lot of analysis, a new way to look at existing products, a lot of research that needs to be done. So that is something we are clearly doing and continue to do. That will lead also to, let's say, new questions our customers ask about our products. And maybe that is data we don't have yet and we need to generate. That we, for instance, know that there will be a benefit, but we've never really organized trials in a way that we could exactly prove what the products do and what their value is related to sustainability. So looking, I think, at your own operations and optimizing that, but I said that's a hygiene factor. It's something you need to do, but does not immediately translate to customer value. looking at your existing product portfolio and finding out how they really contribute and making that very concrete. Let's say also audit it. It's not just a number we put there. We need to be sure about those numbers. They need to be backed up by science. And then of course, yeah, that's and lastly, innovation. We need to work on that also to find new solutions. So life cycle assessments, I think, are very important for both what we're already doing and for the new innovations. We need to the numbers we present need to be real. They need to be verifiable, etc.
I think that's a really good point that applies to everyone in our industry. It's about auditing and understanding what is the true impact of these products on the environmental challenge or sustainability challenge that you're addressing, because if we don't have that full picture, then it's really difficult for not only you to sell to your customers, but for your customers to put forward a business case. So I think that we're going to see across the industry a lot more investment in, as you say, auditing and assessing these sorts of products.
And again, collaboration, as you mentioned before, also that you see that increasing. To do a life cycle assessment is not just within Kemin. We use a raw material, but we need to know exactly where does that raw material come from and how will our product in the end be used and what will be then the benefits. Of course, when you produce a product, CO2 is generated in principle, but in the end, there may be a lot of gains where you reduce CO2 output by using certain products. And without a view on the entire chain, it's impossible to answer that question. So it requires collaboration and I think making sure your data is auditable.
There we go. In 2021, sustainability, the word around it is, I think, collaboration, because it all comes back to that. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I want to focus in on another area that you mentioned that I'm hearing about from so many people in the industry. We've been talking about it for a while, and that is the use of digital technology to improve processes and transform businesses. So what are the innovative uses of digital technology that you're seeing emerging in animal nutrition value chains, Stefaan?
I think one element is looking at how every player contributes and how synergies between those contributions create customer value for the end user. Again, that's an element of collaboration. Companies can do that individually. We're also doing that. But if you can put data together in the entire chain, it gives more insights and gives a better idea on how products are used in the best way and synergy between products that not necessarily need to come from one company. Kemin is a feed additive company, but also by using a certain raw material, it could be that our products work better. So how do you put all that data together? I think digital technologies and let's say how data is being analyzed and captured in the entire chain will play a role. That's a very complex exercise. I think that's only starting, really just starting also with certain initiatives and a lot of progress that we still can make there. On the other hand, also from Kemin's side, as I said, there's also a lot of opportunity for us on the digital technologies and how to work with the data of our customers. One part is, as I mentioned, our customer laboratory services data. How can we put that together that it's not just a report that we provide the customer, but that the customer has access to the data and can get many more insights. That means also grouping our data that we generate globally, and so that the customer can identify, okay, how do I benchmark my data against what is available globally? So that leads to new insights. On the other hand, also, I think what we are doing with our application systems, and that's specifically directed to feed mills. There's a lot of opportunity also to use new digital technologies and analysis of data to provide much more value and much more efficiency in the feed mill. And that's where we are working also on new developments on our project application systems, also with a big new launch next year, where we will work with, measuring more in line in the feed mill, capturing more data with new sensors putting all these data together, and then also with feedback systems and feedback loops, so that we optimize the system as it is running, which is not now much more, okay, you measure, you analyze, you change, and it all requires more of a human intervention. And yes, you are improving, but not really adjusting to what is happening at the moment. You can imagine a feed mill when it starts in spring in the morning. It could start at 10, 15 degrees, and by 5 p.m. it is 25 degrees. So temperature changes a lot. Okay, how does that impact the feed production and, let's say, the use, for instance, of surfactants or antimicrobials, etc. So that is something that we continue to work on, and where, let's say, the interaction between the existing technology, new sensors that you are using, and how do you capture that data, and then what do you do with that data, and feedback mechanisms for immediate response of the changing situation. That's something that we're working on very hard.
I think it's always really impressive. Just every year it feels like there's more and more technologies being adopted within feed mills, and the processes are becoming more and more efficient. I find it really, really interesting and really inspiring how our industry, which can be seen as a little bit old-fashioned sometimes, you know, livestock value chains and agriculture, are using these technologies to make giant leaps in this area. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
yes,
Quite exciting.
I think so. So what about moving forward then? You've already told us a little bit about how you're using some of these technologies in your current projects. So what have you got planned in this area moving forward?
Yeah, certainly looking a bit, I think also response to COVID is also focusing on digitalization of the sales cycle. We can help by being more efficient and offering new tools to customers to also help them to find solutions faster, which is of course to the benefit of our customer. They will be faster in finding a way to improve their profitability. At the same time, it also will help Kemin, of course, to grow its business. So that's certainly a win-win, but in a bit of a new way. So we were used to more face-to-face interactions. So how do we now change that? So that requires internally within Kemin certainly digitalization of certain processes that we are that we're working on. Also, in a way, travel is more complicated and actually slow down sometimes projects in the past. Also, you can imagine when you say, okay, we want to have a meeting, a technical meeting, we need to show certain things in the headquarters. Okay, by the time all the calendars match, it can be 6 weeks later, 2 months later that you schedule that meeting, while the need for the solution is probably already today. So how do you facilitate that when you need to be actually on the site and to really give a perspective on all the solutions that are present and to have the right choices being made? That is something we try. In the past, we did it with innovation days, as I said, on site. And now we're also moving to a more digital tool that we can do that remotely. So we have a complete digital tour present, so that we can show everything we have in our application team. So they can visit the product application group. They can visit the entire R&D department remotely. So that's actually what we already introduced. We had the idea about that already, but we started immediately implementing it very shortly after March. And we had our first digital customer tours already. And you could say, okay, it's not the same as a webinar, because we're actually in the lab together, although in front of a screen, but we're in the lab together, showing the equipment, showing the analysis, which sparks a different kind of conversation and sparks new ideas and different insights. So yeah, technology in that way in our sales process, and moving something we did more face-to-face to also having an option to organize it faster and to do it remotely, but getting to a similar outcome is something that we've been working on. Again, as I said, the service that we give, how can we do that also a bit more remotely? And seems that certainly that element worked very well. And then there's also other tools, of course, that we're working on, as I said, to our customers to help them find their solutions faster. A lot of research is done on websites, etc. So a lot of pre-screening of what the customer needs is done, and when he did a first, let's say, screening of data and what could be of interest, the customer typically starts to talk to a potential supplier. And that's where we're also working on, so that through our website and that we have, let's say, more intelligent systems built in that help with the right questions to guide our potential customers, prospect customers, to a potential solution much faster, so that they don't have to look around and be a bit lucky to find the right thing. That know that we really help them very focused to find the solution in just a few clicks.
I think it's fantastic to hear. I think as well, with the COVID-19 pandemic, even before then, I know companies like yours were working on projects like this, but what the pandemic has shown us is how important these tools are for working remotely, because we don't know when the next pandemic's going to come around. And so to have these things in place and to allow feed mills to start preparing, I suppose, where they might not be able to get that face-to-face support, now they can have video-to-video support that is really kind of to the same level. And I think that is fantastic to hear.
Yeah, and going to hybrid models, because I think we also had the insight that, as said, when you want to meet with somebody, by the time calendars match, you often lose several weeks. And that sometimes is also a loss of efficiency. So I'm pretty sure we will move to hybrid models where we, let's say, address an issue much faster, and at the same time have and start digitally, but then also probably have remote, let's say, face-to-face follow-up calls, but that we don't have to, let's say, slow down projects because calendars don't match. Now that's also a good opportunity to, as I said, use a hybrid model of doing things remotely, but and combined with face-to-face.
I completely agree. And I think everyone wants to get things done as quickly as possible. So anything to help that is always fantastic. So I've got one more question for you, just to bring everything together. We've spoken about a lot of different challenges that our industry is addressing at the moment, but what do you think the animal nutrition and feed industry as a whole should be prioritizing to ensure we can future-proof our industry?
Everything ends with the customer, so that's where it has to start for us. I think customer and environment, those for me are the two key words. If you say what is the question that needs to be asked is how can we guarantee animal protein production in a sustainable way in the future? That is very clear. That's the question that the consumer is asking today. So that is where we absolutely have to start. And I think, we need to find, first, our industry needs to find solutions to that question. That's where our research needs to play an important role, where collaboration in the entire chain plays an important role. That is absolutely clear. But we're also doing a lot of that. So then it comes to the question that the consumers ask: are we responding to those questions? Are we communicating well? And I think that's also where collaboration will be needed with all stakeholders to communicate to the consumers. And we will, Kemin also as a scientific company, that is also where the challenge is. And I think also the final accountability. It's not if you say, okay, consumers don't understand. No, it's not, the accountability is not on the consumer. It's on our industry. We need to translate a scientific message which is understandable for the general public. So when our message doesn't come across, I think we only need to look at ourselves, and we need to communicate better. So that for me is very important. If I look at that, certainly looking at our industry and sustainability, that was research in a thesis from Wageningen University that clearly specified that if you look at an optimized production of protein, being animal protein and vegetable protein, the optimized system is not 100% vegetable protein, although that's what a lot of consumers still believe, that the end goal is to move to 100% vegetable protein in our diets, because that is the most sustainable way to produce protein. That thesis has clearly shown that that's not the case. Still, a lot of vegetable protein is not suitable for human consumption. There are side streams, waste streams that are not valuable for food, so they can be used to produce animal protein. So that's also a message that has not come across, and so there is clearly a space for our industry in a fully optimized sustainable system. And even that thesis, which is already a few years old, does not take into account all the innovations that we're doing. We are not the innovations that are happening in feed mills on feed production, which are happening on raw materials and efficient use of raw materials and new raw materials for animal production. The feed additives, which play a role in which there's giant leaps also still being taken to improve efficiency. Genetics, which is improving, that has all not been taken into account into that study. So there's still, I think, also from our perspective, a lot of space to be able to grow the sustainable share that animal protein can have in our daily diets. And I think that's what we should focus on, and that starts with consumer and environment.
I think that's a really great answer, and you're absolutely right. The consumer side is so important, and we do need to maybe adapt perceptions of animal agriculture and educate consumers about the true picture. And I think that comes back to collaboration, because it's something that we as an industry need to be doing together rather than one company here and one company there. So I think you've given me some food for thought there to think about how maybe we can bring everyone together to try and address that issue to future-proof our industry. So thank you, Stefaan. So thank you so much for your time, Stefaan. It's been so insightful to get your views on the industry as a whole and what you're doing at Kemin. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and we hope you join us for future videos from Feedinfo.